So what does it really take to protect the most powerful person in a country? I mean, are we talking about a couple of guys in suits, a fleet of armored cars, or maybe even a squadron of fighter jets? Well, today, we're going to climb the ladder of presidential security, and you'll see everything from a rusty old car to a 2 million-person army. Let's get into it. And just look at this. This is the insane range we're covering. On one side of the world, you have a president puttering around in a 30-year-old Beetle. On the other, a leader who literally can't leave the ground without fighter jets scrambling to meet him. How can both of these be real? Well, it's not just about money or power. It's about the story each leader wants to tell. So, we're going to start at the very bottom, level 1. And this isn't about being poor or not having the resources. Nope, this is a deliberate choice. It's a statement about what it means to lead. This is security through being open and accessible. Okay, so meet Jose Mujica of Uruguay. The guy was nicknamed the world's poorest president, and for good reason. He said no thanks to the fancy presidential palace and stayed in his little tin-roofed shack. He didn't have some motorcade. He drove himself around in this old '87 Beetle with barely any security at all. And it wasn't a stunt. His protection was essentially being one of the people. All right, let's climb a few steps up the ladder to level 10. Now we're getting into what you'd probably expect. Motorcades, bodyguards, the whole 9 yards. This is security built to stop a real physical threat. But, as you're about to see, all that armor can't always protect you from, well, a very unhappy public. Take France's Emmanuel Macron. He has a full-blown professional security detail with him every single day. And yet, the guy has basically become a walking target. He's been slapped right across the face during a public event. He's been pelted with eggs, with tomatoes. It's a pretty stark reminder that even the best bodyguards can't shield you from political anger. But what if security isn't just about stopping an attack? What if it's also a performance? Some leaders use their security as a way to project strength, to intimidate, and they do it in some pretty strange ways. This is security as a psychological tool. So here we have Rodrigo Duterte from the Philippines, a guy known as the Punisher. He loved to cultivate this image of a regular guy, riding his three-wheeler with his friends. But what the cameras didn't always show was the massive convoy of military reinforcements trailing right behind him. And just to send a message, he would publicly crush millions of dollars worth of smuggled supercars. Talk about security as a warning. And then there's this. Egypt's President El-Sisi has a unique way of projecting power. Forget tanks and missiles. He holds these military parades with his elite forces who are shirtless and slathered in baby oil. It looks bizarre, for sure, but make no mistake, this is a flex. A very shiny, very muscular flex, meant to show the kind of overwhelming force he commands. So parades and tough guy acts are one thing, but what happens when the threat is real, it's immediate, and it's literally falling out of the sky? Well, that's when all the posturing goes right out the window and pure survival kicks in. We're now jumping way up to level 50. This is where the human body itself becomes the final line of defense. This is where bodyguards stop being just guards and literally become a living, breathing fortress, a shield made of flesh and bone. In 2018, check this out. Venezuela's Nicolas Maduro was attacked by drones carrying bombs while he was giving a speech. As they went off, his personal security team's reaction was instant. They didn't run. They formed a human wall, using their own bodies to shield him. And the craziest part? The soldiers in the parade below, well, they scattered and ran for cover. It shows you the massive difference between a personal detail and an army. But hey, personal protection isn't always just about manpower. Sometimes it's about high-tech gear that looks like it's straight out of a James Bond movie, hidden in plain sight. The elite unit that protects India's prime minister, they carry what just looks like a normal briefcase. But if a threat is detected, in a split second, that case unfolds into a full-size, bulletproof, ballistic shield. It is a real-life transformer, and it's designed to save a life in an instant. Okay, we are now entering the zone of pure overkill. This is where security itself is a massive spectacle of force, mashing together incredible manpower with military technology every single day, just to erase any tiny possibility of a threat. You've probably seen this image before. North Korea's Kim Jong-un is surrounded by at least a dozen hand-picked guards who literally run alongside his limo. They're not just jogging, okay? They are a moving human shield. These guys are chosen for being in peak physical condition, for their absolute loyalty, and probably a healthy amount of fear. It's not just protection, it's a message to the world about his total control. Vladimir Putin's security is just on another level. When he flies, his presidential plane is escorted by fighter jets, and sometimes they'll even use decoy planes just to throw off any potential attackers. And on the ground, his motorcade doesn't just drive through traffic. It sweeps the streets clean, creating this totally sterile, threat-free bubble everywhere he goes. And then you've got Turkey's President Erdogan. He doesn't just have an armored car, he has a battle bus. I mean, this thing is a ballistic-proof fortress on wheels. It's got armed guards on the roof and helicopters circling above. It's basically a mobile command center designed for one thing, projecting absolute, untouchable power. And in the US, just for context, most presidents have about 80 agents. Donald Trump, however, is protected by a massive detail of 300. And we're not just talking bodyguards. We're talking specialized teams for every possible scenario. Counter-surveillance guys looking for spies, counter-sniper units on the rooftops, and even counter-assault squads ready for a full-on attack. So here we are. We have finally made it to the very top of the ladder, level 100. And at this level, we're not talking about a security detail anymore. We're talking about a leader whose protection is the power of an entire nation. 2 million. Just let that number sink in. That is the number of active troops in the world's largest standing military, and they are all, effectively, at the beck and call of one man. China's Xi Jinping doesn't just have security, he commands the biggest military on the planet. His power is so complete that even his own personal translator has to get special clearance just to be near him. For him, protection isn't a team of guys in suits, it's a whole country on permanent standby. So, from a humble little beetle to a 2 million strong army, what we've really seen is that a leader's security is like a mirror. It reflects how connected they are to their people, what they're afraid of, and ultimately the image of power they want to broadcast to the world. And that kind of leaves us with one last thought, right? As the security gets tighter and the walls get higher, what's really being protected? Is it the person or is it the power? And when you build a fortress like that, what connection to the real world, to the very people you're supposed to be leading, gets lost along the way?